Well, hello once again, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Chord Progression Podcast, a My Song of the Day Rock 2000 to Today podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, as you guys probably know if you are repeat listeners or see anything on our social channels, YouTube, whatever. So yeah, you know who I am at this point. I hopefully think you do. We're at episode 13. Man, I'm already at 13 episodes for this podcast. I started this in like February. Well, May, yeah, it kind of makes sense to get closer. Actually, I think I started this in March. I don't know. But unfortunately, I do not have a guest for today. We were on a string of 2 straight weeks with a guest, and this week, I just don't have one, so you're going to have to hear me ramble on about all my fun stuff. But trust me, we actually do have a good amount to go into this week, just because over the past week, we've had some new music to talk about, some new things that have happened. We're also going to end up talking about, I went to a concert this weekend that I really want to get into because it was one that I've been told I had to go see, especially by one of the fans of the Instagram page and of the whole entire project of its own. So I went to go see this certain band. I will talk about that later. And then I kind of want to get into something a little bit after that. But before I get started, I'm going to go with my shameless plug section, where basically I just plug if I had advertisement. I would do that here. But 13 episodes in, I do not have any advertisements, so let's just say this. If you're not following the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 Day platform on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, or if you're not enabling our Alexa skill, please do, because, well, that's the whole point of this. We're going to try and bring you guys a great music experience and a great music community where you feel free to talk about anything music. So if you think a band made a good album and we ask about it, tell us. If you think the band made a bad album and, tell us those thoughts. Tell us those genuine thoughts, and we can have this great discussion about it to the point where you don't have to feel bad about your opinion. I mean, if you think a band made a great album, tell me. If you think they made a shitty album, tell me. But in the end, I want to hear why, and we can talk about all of that stuff. Trust me, I've got my own opinions too, so I'm more than willing to talk about them as well. Links for everything is in the description of the podcast, or you can find it pretty much anywhere on our social channels. So go follow it. We're on, again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and we have an Alexa skill. So, woo! I had to make sure the echo did not turn on at that point, mostly because then you'd start hearing her, and I'm just like, that kind of would disrupt the podcast a little bit. So, what should I go into first this week? So, you know what? Let's start out with new music that was either announced or came out this week. So, the first thing I want to talk about is this happened on Tuesday, if I'm correct. This past Tuesday. I think it was at the 7th. But the biggest problem with that is of course, I release podcasts every single Tuesday. I want to talk about this a lot, but I couldn't really necessarily go into it as much as I wanted to because the single wasn't released until Wednesday. So who am I talking about? Or actually, it wasn't fully released until Wednesday. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Skillet. Skillet announced their 10th release of their album, Victorious, which is going to come out on Friday, August 2nd of this year, 2019. Now, I'm not the largest Skillet fan, mostly because I ended up listening to their whole entire discography to really get a grasp of it. And one thing you'll notice is especially when I do a band review on this for our YouTube channel, one thing that really kind of gets me about the band is, let's see where I was going to go with that. I do know that they have heavy influences in Christianity. And that really reflects in their music when it comes to Christian rock and the themes about it. And I like them when they kind of weave those themes into a much harder rock style and they get away from that Christian rock style. Now, the reason I like when they get away from that Christian rock style, I'm talking musically, it's just because when I was a kid, I went to a private grade schools in high school. So I went to a Catholic grade school for kindergarten through 3rd grade, and then I went to a different one, 4th through 8th grade. Then I went to a Catholic high school. So a lot of times, teachers and when I was younger, so I'm talking grade school, middle school, the kids would actually be listening to Christian rock music, and I just couldn't grasp it because at that time, when I was younger, so I'm talking like grade school, I was listening to music that my dad was into when he was, my age right now. So this is, think early, mid-'80s, yeah. Yeah, early mid-'80s. So he's listening to bands like Rush, Van Halen, ZZ Top, Electric Light Orchestra, getting in towards Motley Crue, later in the decade. So that's the kind of rock that I really like. And when I was listening to that Christian rock music, it just sounded so damn bland to me. I mean, it just sounded just god awful. It sounded like it was so formulated. It was just cookie cutter. And I think South Park really hits the nail on the head with that one, with their when they parodied the whole entire thing, when Cartman, Token, and Butters created a Christian rock band and they sold a whole bunch of albums because it was just, just the simplest stuff all across the board. And I totally understand that. And I really can't stand it because, again, it was forced down my throat when I was a kid. And when you're a kid and stuff's forced down your throat, naturally you're gonna resist. And that's one thing that I really did. When I was in middle school, I know I've told the story about when I brought the Indestructible album to school because I was like the person of the week to pick the music for whatever resource time we had, and I picked the Indestructible album, and I got it pulled after 2 songs. While other people were playing stuff like, oh my god, like Christina Aguilera, Kelly Clarkson, and like some people brought in Christian music, and the teacher would play that stuff too. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So back on to Skillet. When it comes to Skillet, a lot of their songs are like that, and I just can't stand it. But when there's a good amount of their songs that are, that hard rock focus, I'm going to look at songs like Rebirthing, Comatose, Monster, Not Gonna Die, Feel Invincible. I am all there for those songs, especially Not Gonna Die. So I was curious to see what would happen with the Victorious album. Now, when they announced it, naturally, of course, I'm online. I'm reading the articles because I want to be informed about this stuff. I really do. I want to make sure that when I'm presenting the information, I'm presenting the information right. And a couple of things that got me to notice about this album was that John Cooper and Corey Cooper were the primary creators of the music and the producers of it as well. So I thought, okay, so they're keeping this stuff in-house. And I'm really curious to see what happens in it and what comes of it. The second thing they talked about was, now that Seth Morrison, I think his name's Seth Morrison, and John Cooper, they have their side project, Fight the Fury, which the whole purpose of Fight the Fury was to give the Skillet fans that harder metal style that Skillet could potentially put out, but put it in a different band. And I actually do enjoy Fight the Fury. Then there's Jen Ledger's solo project, which I haven't really gotten that much into, just because it sounds just a little bit too more Christian-y, a little bit too more pop-y for my taste. But I do, of course, respect the move. And in some interviews, John was talking about how this Victorious album is going to lean a little bit on the heavier side, more towards what they've been doing with Fight the Fury. So far, when I heard that, I'm like, okay, I am actually into this. I want to see what happens. Give it to me, guys. I want to see what happens. Legendary dropped, and I listened to the song for, I think, twice or 3 times on my way to work the first day it came out. And I had a little trouble grasping it because one thing I saw, of course, in interviews was Corey Cooper was talking about how the intro guitar riff was something that they had not tried yet, and it was something completely different. So, hoping for a good reaction, hoping for a good response from it from the fans. I listened to it, and I will not lie, after the first 2 or 3 listens, I was still a little confused by it. So some time went by. I went to work. Of course, total snooze fest after like 10:30. So I'm just sitting there. I'm listening to more music, and I start listening to Legendary a little bit more and more. And I'm really starting to see where they were talking about with creating a harder tone for like what Fight the Fury did and making it as a harder Skillet album from this first single. I actually do enjoy Legendary. I do enjoy the message behind it because it does keep with their consistent Christian rock theme music, but it doesn't have that Christian rock style, so it has more of a harder Skillet style to it. It's not the same as Not Gonna Die. It's going to be more along the lines of something actually completely different. I don't really know how to describe it from another Skillet song because it actually does have a unique sound to it, and I am actually a fan of it. I started listening to it when I was benching because I'm like, I just want to see how this song feels, on a bench, like when I'm bench pressing, see what happens. And it does kind of get me pumped up a little bit. So I thought, okay, I got something here. I got something I like from Skillet as well. And I'm feeling good about it. So I'm looking forward to Skillet coming out with that album on August 2nd. Hopefully by the time that happens, I got 3 months to make this page as huge as possible. What if I could get someone from Skillet on the podcast to actually talk about the music with? Whether it be Seth, whether it be John, whether it be Corey, whether it be Jen, I don't mind which one. I'd love to have a chance to talk to him about the music, talk to him about the creation of the album, and kind of what they expect and how the fans are going to react. And then I will actually give them my straight up opinion of the album. And of course, I'll tell them, this is just a podcast where we just want to say the truth of what we believe and what our opinion is. And remember that it's our opinion too. For this one, it would be my opinion. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If I like it, I'm going to tell you I like it. If I don't like it, I'm going to tell you I really don't like it. That's just what happens. So hopefully that happens, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Skillet does with this album. I'm also looking forward to seeing them come to Summerfest, actually, in the beginning of July here in Milwaukee, and I'll actually be able to see them perform with Jen Ledger finally, because I didn't get to see him the first time, or her the first time, I should say. But in the end, I think that Skillet actually has something here because, again, when I saw him in concert, they played a different single off of this album that hasn't been released yet, and it does coincide with that harder sound. So I think Skillet's going to be on the right track on this one. I think their 10th album might be their best overall. That's what I'm hoping for. So, again, only time will tell. I got some other fun new music to talk about you guys with. The past 2-3 weeks, I've been talking about Motionless in White a whole lot, and this week, of course, is going to be no different due to the fact that they released the third single off their Disguise album coming out on June 7th. The album is called, or not the album, the song is called Undead Ahead to the Tale of the Midnight Ride. And now, the original Undead Ahead, I cannot remember what album it was on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Because if I can, I'll be like, okay. Oh, it is on the Creatures album. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure it was on the Creatures album. Otherwise, it was going to be on the Infamous album because I knew it was early on. And I've been talking with a lot of people about it on Instagram, not as much on Twitter, mostly Instagram. I just see people's takes of it. And I've been getting some rather mixed reviews of Undead Ahead too. Most of the reviews I've gotten were all revolving around how this sounds a lot like older Motionless in White, where older Motionless in White from 2010, 2011 comes and slaps you right in the face. And I've seen some positives on it, and I've heard a lot of negatives on it. I've heard someone from one of our, let's see, what was it? Consistent contributor to the podcast, consistent contributor to the Instagram live stream, consistent contributor overall. He was on the podcast 2 weeks ago. His name's Anthony. Brought it up, and he said out of the singles, this one was his favorite Undead Ahead 2, but still wasn't as big of a fan of it as the original Undead Ahead. Where I'm on the fence about this, where I'm a little bit different, I do think that it was a little bit a throwback to older Motionless in White when I heard it. Throwback again to that Creatures album. But I just don't think it is good as Brand New Numb, actually. Just because Brand New Numb was kind of something on a different end for Motionless in White. And I did enjoy seeing it live. And Disguise is straight up Motionless in White to its core. And I think that's the best one so far. It just kind of has this different anthemic feel to it with the beginning kind of creepy piano sound. But when I'm going to go back to Undead Ahead 2, I mean, it's just classic, just go out there, shred the guitar, just play hard. So I do think the song fits in here. I do think that it doesn't necessarily damper the album at this point. So I'll put it this way. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not displeased with it. That's the best way to put it. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not completely displeased with the whole entire project or with the whole entire song. I'm interested again to see what happens as they go forward from here. What's the album going to more be like? I hope they put out a couple other bangers like they did on Graveyard Shift with Voices and Eternally Yours. I hope I get more stuff like Disguise where it's just a great song and could be useful for a lot of different things. But then again, we'll see what happens coming out later. Alrighty, third band to release a new song or new single. I'm going to jump to Volbeat because they released on Friday for New Music Friday a 38-second song called Parasite. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this because for a song that's 38 seconds, you can't spend too much time on it. I'm not going to deconstruct this whole entire freaking thing for you guys, but go listen to it for yourself. It sounds like Volbeat's just trying something new here. I'm not a fan of the song, though. I really don't like it. It just sounds like it was something that was kind of thrown together and just kind of just put out there for Volbeat to say, hey, we're still, making music on something. And now, because again, their last album, or last full release album from Seal the Deal and Let's Boogie came out back in 2016. So Volbeat is due for a new album, especially after being done with their tour headlining for Godsmack, which I did miss when it came to Milwaukee because tickets were like $110 just to go see Godsmack and Volbeat at the Pfizer Forum. I'm like, I really don't feel like paying that much money when I paid less to go see 3 Days Grace and Disturbed, and 3 Days Grace and Disturbed are much bigger bands than Volbeat and Godsmack. Well, I mean, especially Disturbed. Are you kidding me? But it just wasn't a big fan of the song. It felt like it was thrown together. If it's an intro into another album, I am curious to see what happens. But as the song stands, we just put out a single that's 38 seconds and kind of go with that route. I just really don't care for it. I'm sorry, I really just don't care for it. And now, if you heard that little motorcycle, I'm not sure if you did. I did move recently, so I'm in a completely different area. So if you hear some weird background noises like some hip-hop rap music pounding or some bass pounding around here, or if you hear traffic going behind me, yeah, I'm sorry about that. That just happens. Okay, so next on the agenda for new music, I'm going to talk about Beartooth, because Beartooth released a 2-song B-sides thing, which I think Maddie told us about. Again, another friend of the podcast, another friend of the Instagram live stream. Maddie will be on for the Motionless In White album release, and we're going to be interviewing her for that as well. So that'll be coming in about a month. So look forward to that, because that'll be a good one. And she's a huge Beartooth fan, so we've got two B-side tracks for Beartooth that came out this week on New Music Friday, or last week for New Music Friday. The first one's called Takeover. Now, I listened to both of them, and I'll talk about each one. Takeover sounded like, when I first listened to it, I got this more classic 80s hard rock style from the instrumentation. The guitar was more rapid pace, the drums were more rapid pace, but it wasn't super duper hard. It kind of was like that rapid hair metal, I would say. That's a better way to put it. Kind of like Motley Crue in a sense, but with a much heavier overtone due to the fact that it's Beartooth. But it did work out well here, mostly because the fact of the matter is, when it comes to Beartooth, Caleb's vocals kind of really drive most of what's going on there. And it creates that Beartooth sound with an experimentation from what I think was 80s glam metal. Or hair metal, I should say, from the instrumentation standpoint. I did rather enjoy listening to this one just because I thought, you know what? This actually is something where you can tell where this is where Beartooth's strength lies. Because, again, listening to the first couple of albums, I mean, you listen to Disgusting and Aggressive. I know a lot of people like those albums. I was a little bit on the fence about those. But it's once Disguise came out last year, and I gave it the Album of the Year award because it deserved it, because there was not a misstep on that whole entire album. My God, I mean, that was perfect. But when it comes down to this, for these B-side tracks, I think they actually did a good job due to the fact that they can create their own sound and use those influences without compromising what they've already done. And it really shows on Messed Up as well, because, again, Caleb's vocals drive the sound that say, yes, this is Beartooth, and Beartooth can do what Beartooth wants. But the instrumentation behind it reminded me a lot of, and the flow reminded me a lot of Low by Sleeping with Sirens. So it had more of a pop rock feel to it, which I was kind of thrown back by at first, mostly because I thought, this does not sound like Beartooth. But then again, Caleb's vocals are the most instrumental part of the band, especially at this point, because it goes from me thinking this could definitely be a Sleeping with Sirens song like Low, but then all of a sudden Caleb's vocals come in, and now I'm hooked because it's a Beartooth song. His vocals really drive that energy, drive that emotion. It's something that the instrumentation can't touch, and I thought this was a great selection for a B-side track. Mostly because when it comes to a B-side track, you're going to try and do some experimentation. I think they did well here. So I think maybe if they come out with another album like 2 years down the line, just because they came out with one last year, they could do some more experimentation while still keeping that Beartooth sound like is seen, especially if they have Caleb's vocals behind there. So I think they have a great chance and a great opportunity to do so. Now, one of the biggest pieces of news that came out of music this week, and this is something where, it ties into new music as well, because it is a release date announced for a new album, and 13 years in the making, Tool has announced that they are releasing their next album, could be their last album, could be, another 13 years before they release another one, on August 30th, 2019. Now, it's at the end of August, so we're going to have most of the summer to speculate on this, see what happens, and then the album's going to drop. And of course, a lot of us are going to listen to it because there are people that have been waiting 13 years for this, especially a lot of Tool fans. Myself, I'm not the biggest Tool fan. I really don't care that much for their music, and I think mostly it's because of that 13-year layoff, just because it's like, okay, it keeps putting you off, and they keep saying, oh, we're doing this, but you're really not sure what they're exactly doing, what they're exactly putting up there. Just something that's a little tough to really get a hold of, but I digress. I was talking with a lot of people about this one as well, seeing what people thought about it. I've seen people that are excited for it because they're big Tool fans and they're excited to see what happens 13 years in the making. Connecting with some people on Instagram that actually went and saw the band recently and said they played 2 singles off of their new album, say that they actually fit the Tool style and that they are very good hard rock tracks. And they're looking forward to seeing what Tool comes out with the rest of the album. I've seen a lot of people dislike those tracks as well, but it's not, and it seems like those are your more casual Tool fans. It seems like the hardcore Tool fans really are liking this stuff. And I'm actually kind of okay with it at this point, because if you're waiting for 13 years for new music and all of a sudden now you're starting to get it, and the casual fans are like, oh, this isn't really what we expected, but the hardcore fans really are loving it, then I think you're actually doing something right at this point, because you're really giving the fans that have stuck with you this whole entire time exactly what they've been hoping for. Myself, I don't necessarily think this album's going to come out very well. I think it's going to be a rather big disappointment. But let me, this is my opinion too, and let me explain why. When you have that long of a layoff, that 13-year layoff, I know these guys have other projects, but you just miss a lot of that chemistry. You miss a lot of that camaraderie, and it just doesn't show up in the music. I'm going to use sports as an example. I remember back in 2007, this is going with baseball. The Colorado Rockies swept, I can't remember who they swept. I think it was the Diamondbacks, to advance to the World Series. And they had an 8-day layoff before they played their next game. The Red Sox, on the other hand, beat Cleveland in 7 games. They had like a 1 to 2 day layoff before they played their next game. That long layoff for the Rockies really hurt their offense, because their offense was hot and it cooled off by not playing any baseball for 8 freaking days. The Red Sox had played meaningful baseball and had a day rest and a travel day and a day rest before they started playing again, and they just whipped them. I mean, they just killed them. 4-0 sweep. Colorado looked lost out there. And I know this might not be the same thing for when it comes to music as well, but I think the same thing could very well happen to Tool here. And on this new album as well, because you have this long layoff where people are doing other projects. You have people doing other things. You have people focusing on different aspects in life. A lot of things have changed in life since 2006 as well, not only for them, but for everybody, and especially the world. It creates a tough issue of trying to regain that chemistry. If they can pull it off, my hat is completely off to them at this point, because if they can pull off something like that, I actually honestly commend them. Not condemn, I commend them for it, because it is something that is absolutely insane. It's something, if you can pull that off, I am actually pretty proud of it. I just don't think they will, though, just due to the fact that there's always been some kind of turmoil around them. There's always been some, here's an announcement of when we're going to release this album. Here's an announcement for potential new music, and it always passes. People are still skeptical of the fact that this album will come out on August 30th, even though it was announced as a hard date. There's still skepticism in the air. My God, I cannot talk today. So I'm curious to see what happens there, of course. In my opinion right now, I don't think it's going to turn out as well. I think it's going to be a huge disappointment. That's my take. Other people's takes, I've seen one person thought that this was going to be the band's last album, that was going to be their magnum opus. Very well could happen. I don't know. And this kid that I talked to was a hardcore Tool fan. So anything could happen at this point. Honestly, I don't know. It's pure speculation at this point from what I'm seeing. Mostly because I have not heard the new singles due to the fact that they've only been playing them live in concert. And I'm not going to watch concert videos to try and actually figure it out, because I'm going to hear just a bunch of, echoing, and it's not going to sound good. It's just not really going to sound very well. So I can't make an accurate assumption off of those concert videos. I mean, I could, but I'd always have to give them the benefit of the doubt on everything due to the fact that the audio would be subpar, due to the fact that, again, it's a concert video. And I want to hear what you guys think as well. So shoot us a tweet or comment on anything on Instagram. Shoot us a tweet. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to Twitter, and I want you to take a look and say, here's what we're doing. I want you to tweet it at the number. So this is how you want. Shoot, I'm kind of rambling on here. I want to hear what you guys think about the Tool album. So go to Twitter. We're using Twitter on this one. The handle is at rock the number 2000 2TO today, and then tell us what you think of the Tool album. What's going to be your prediction? Do you think it's going to be fantastic? Do you think it's going to be a disappointment? Do you think it's going to be good? Do you think it's going to be bad? I want to hear what you have to say. So give it a shot. I want to hear what you have to say because, of course, you know who's going to be the one responding? Me. Alrighty, that's enough for new music. I mean, of course, we're always going to have new music no matter what to talk about, but I've got a concert to talk about, too, because this weekend on Saturday, May 11th, I went to, of course, you know, my hometown concert venue, the Rave Eagles Ballroom in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and there were 2 headliners performing there. Of course, I only saw one. The one I didn't see was Tech 9, and that's just because, well, I didn't want to go see Tech 9 due to the fact that I'm a hard rock kind of guy. And there was a band that was headlining at the ballroom, and that's the one that people were telling me, you have to go see them. You have to go see them. If you don't see them, you are missing out. So what band am I talking about? I went to go see In This Moment. And the opener for In This Moment was Sevendust. So I get to the venue around, I want to say 7:20, 7:25. Show's supposed to start at 8 o'clock. Now I'm curious just to see what happens, what's going on. So I walk into the venue and I'm just kind of walking around the whole entire place. Granted, I've been here numerous times, so I know the lay of the land, but I just want to get a feel of what everyone's doing, what everyone's kind of going for, what the feel of the crowd is. Is it going to be a moshing crowd? Is it going to be more of a stand and watch crowd? I'm just curious to see what happens, and I got mixed reviews. Not only that, but I got to say this. Chicks that love hard rock and metal, yeah, that's where it's at. God, I saw some of the most gorgeous women there, and it was fantastic. I just thought it was beautiful. But I digress, because I've got a funny story about women trying to be gorgeous and whatnot at the show, but that'll come a little bit later, because I'm going to go through the show as it happened. So it gets to be about 8 o'clock. This is when the show's about to start, and I'm there by myself. I end up talking to this one guy and his dad, and we're talking all about music. We're just having a good time. And then we start talking about mosh pits, because, of course, you're not going to not talk about mosh pits when you're at a concert. And it's, okay, where's the mosh pit going to be for Sevendust? Where's it going to be for In This Moment? Is it going to be big? Is it going to be crazy? I really don't know. So we're kind of further back in the stage. We're kind of in the middle of the floor, but just off to the left. Now, it's about 8:30, 8:25, and all of a sudden the lights go black, and now the show's about to start. And on comes Sevendust. Now, I don't really know that many Sevendust songs. I just didn't really get into the band, but the band played, and they played just, consistent hard rock, consistent metal music that was perfect for a mosh pit. They never wavered on that. And the mosh pit started up about 15 feet to the right of me. So it was about the exact same length away from the stage, but it was position-wise, it was center stage. So the guy that the 2 guys I was talking to, the older guy, the dad, of course, he's not going to go in the mosh pit. He wants to say, the younger guy and me, we just jump right in there. We're just having a blast in there. I'm getting knocked around left and right. I did not fall. I did not lose my shoes this time. I did get knocked around pretty good, though. I'm not going to lie. There were some big motherfuckers there. And it's just, I'm not talking, big and strong. I'm just talking, these guys were tall. These guys were fat. But they could pack a punch, or those like those smaller, stocky guys that, low man wins. So they're packing a punch as well. And I 6'1", 185 pounds, do have some muscle on me. So I can hold my own, but I'm not going to deliver those intimidating blows or those insane blows to people like I could. I didn't deliver some of those at Motionless In White 2 weeks ago, but I wasn't able to really do that here. In terms of how Sevendust perform, I'm gonna go into something here with what I like to see when I'm at a concert when it comes to the band performing, what I like and what I dislike, and it's kind of weird, so just bear with me. Again, this is all my opinion. When Sevendust was playing, it was everybody but the lead singer was very stagnant on stage. And what I mean by very stagnant is they're just they're playing, which I enjoy, and they're just playing, just having a good time there. But they're not really moving around. They're not creating a lot of action. It's just the energy of the show kind of gets brought down by that a little bit because there's lack of movement there. The lead singer, however, was moving around kind of, not too much though. So that kind of did bring down the energy as well as a potential for what it could have been, because the energy was still high due to the music that they played. And people loved them. People were going nuts. Did I enjoy seeing Sevendust live playing their 20-second show at the rave? Yeah, I actually did enjoy seeing Sevendust. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good time, especially in the mosh pit. And when they ended, it was kind of weird because they ended, and all of a sudden the stage went black. They walked off. People are chanting one more song, and all of a sudden you start seeing the roadies come on and start disassembling everything. We're like, wait, what's going on here, guys? We were kind of freaked out by it. It's like, okay, we were expecting them to come out for at least one more because, I mean, they went hard and they definitely deserved to come out and play one or two more. But I think because they went on late, they couldn't really pull that off. So they came out, and the In This Moment crew was starting to build the stage, and this big banner for In This Moment fell over the stage. So of course we can't see anything. Now I start talking to these two guys that are standing behind me, as you know, where the pit was. That kind of closes up because people are starting to get closer to the stage. And we're talking about all these different things. We're talking about the music that they're playing on the, while we're waiting. Because they went from Manson to Kiss to, did they go to Motley Crue after that? I remember, but it was just all over the place. We were talking about on Sirius XM, the Chris Jericho hour, where he'll just play whatever the hell he wants and just do shameless plugs as well. Because sometimes, you'll hear something like super heavy, and then you'll hear something from like the 70s. It makes no sense. But of course, you're not listening for that. You're listening for Chris Jericho's ridiculous stuff. And he'll do his shameless plugs where he'll just, hey, my buddy's in a band, go listen to this band right now. I think that's still kind of cool, though, even though it is rather shameless in my opinion. But again, I do the shameless plug section here. Now, this is where I was going to talk about the gorgeous women, because we had 4 women that all of a sudden came up next to us, and they all kind of looked dressed the same, all that kind of jazz. And they're like, oh my God, let's get a selfie. Like, oh my God. And we were laughing hysterically because after about 3 minutes, we really figured out what was going on. It was they would take one, and then they'd all look at it. 3 of them would love it. One of them was like, oh, I don't like that one. Like, my eyes look weird. My face looks weird. And then they just keep taking them. They never change poses. It was always the exact same setup, exact same faces, exact same everything. And no matter what, 3 of them loved it. One of them disliked it. So, of course, you have to redo it. We ended up starting a timer, and we thought we should be recording this because we want to take a YouTube video and have in the corner every time they take one, just bing, 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 bing. Just have a counter for this kind of crap. And I'm thinking, I get it. You're waiting for the band to start up. You're waiting for In This Moment to come on. And you're just curious to see what happens. You're trying to kill the time. But you do have to take 1,000 selfies just to try and find the perfect selfie. And when they finally got their whole entire group done, next thing you notice, oh my God, now they're taking ones of just 3 of them or 2 of them or just their own. Except this one girl. She was kind of just like done with it. And I kind of thought that was cool because it's like, you got to be kidding me. That's just a lot of fucking selfies. We end up having these 2 girls that are behind us as well that knows what was going on. And we were just making fun of each other. And now they're right next to us too. I mean, right now, if I'm sitting at my desk right now, they were like right to the wall against me. You want to know where my wall is? It's less than an arm's length away of me right now. That was how close they were, and they could definitely probably hear us, but we didn't give a shit because we were just having too much fun making fun of this. It's just, you don't have to take so many damn selfies. Take one, live with it, call it a day. You don't have to spend 20 minutes trying to find the perfect picture. Especially at a freaking concert when it's intermission. My God. Now, In This Moment starts. This is where I kind of was like, okay, I knew that it was going to be something I hadn't seen before from a concert aspect, due to the fact that I've been talking to people, especially some of the closer people to the Instagram page, and they were talking about how, you got to see In This Moment due to the fact that their show is not really like anything you've ever seen. The theatrics are ridiculous. And I thought, okay, let's see what happens. So now they're playing, they shut it down. They do this crazy light show kind of thing that was actually really blinding because they had lights pointed straight at us. I mean, and so did Sevendust too. Sevendust did some stuff with that, but it just kind of was just get annoying at sometimes. Then they started playing a recording of "Here I Go Again" by Whitesnake, and people were singing and having a good time. And it cut off right before the end. Lights went black. The banner comes down, and they had this ridiculous looking set. I mean, it looked like just kind of this fantasy medieval church setup town kind of stuff, and I mean, it was just dark and dingy and just, it looked pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. So now the band comes out, everyone but Maria at this point. So drummer is stage right. One of the guitarists, lead guitarist was stage right up front. I think the rhythm guitar, I think it was the rhythm guitarist. He was stage left up front, and the bassist was stage left in the back, and they were staggered as well. And in the middle, I mean, it just looked completely insane. They had this great gothic feel. And of course, Hannibal, the bodyguard for Maria, is completely stage left, just standing there, just waiting for someone to go up on stage and ready to take him out. I mean, this dude looked like he could play in the NFL right now. However, no one jumped on stage because, I don't think anyone crowd surfed either. No, they didn't. So Maria comes out, and I mean, it's just the theatrics of this. I don't know how to explain this. I mean, I feel like you have to go and see this moment because the theatrics were something out of this freaking world. They went all out on that, especially for Maria's sake, just because what she did to create a lot of the theatrics behind it and create the kind of energy for the show was all in her movements. It was all choreographed with 3 other dancers kind of dancers that kind of looked like her. But you could see a lot of things that were going on, a lot of movement. And it was, at the beginning, I was kind of intrigued by it. But after a while, I'm not going to lie, for my personal taste, it did kind of drag on a little bit. But again, this is my personal opinion on it. It's because when it comes to concert, what I like to see the bands up there, playing, like, just straight up playing their music. But I like to see them create the energy behind it, constantly moving around, constantly going from one side of the stage to the other, just going at it. I think a perfect example of that would be bands like I like what Disturbed did. I love what Rise Against does. I like what Hollywood Undead did. Like, stuff like that, because they're playing their music and they're just having fun doing it, and they're moving around and interacting with the crowd. The 4 other members of the band, not named Maria, they were, again, rather stagnant, just really didn't leave their post while Maria was on stage. I'll put it that way, while Maria was on stage. Maria, on the other hand, was just going all out with all the theatrics. What the whole entire moniker reminded me of was... This might sound weird, but it kind of reminded me of those like fantasy medieval video games, kind of like a World of Warcraft kind of thing. They really had that kind of, I don't know, I mean, that's just kind of the way I'm going to describe it, just because that's the theme and the anthem they kind of came out with. I was disappointed though that they did not open up with "Welcome to the Gun Show," because holy crap, would that have been just not hilarious? That would have been the perfect way to start it out with, especially going nuts. No one crowd surf. We did have a little bit of a mosh pit for in this moment right in front of me, but I didn't jump in because I kind of wanted. I was told, you got to watch the theatrics, so I was interested in watching the theatrics. Excuse me, I had to burp on that one. So going forward, I'm thinking, okay, let's see what happens as it goes on. Let's see what songs come on. And I don't know that many In This Moment songs. I just not really fully into the band. They played Roots about, I think it was the 4th or 5th track on there, and that one really got the crowd going. After that track, now Maria was really starting to get into it with the crowd, really starting to, bring the crowd into it, saying, how's everybody doing? And talking to the crowd. Never really went full preachy at the beginning of it. Was just talking more or less about, having fun, like kind of like enjoying, thank you for coming out, and was really interacting with the fans. Now, that was something I'm a huge fan of. It's when you're interacting with the fans that come out here, because, I mean, we paid, at least $45 for a ticket to this, and you're really going to take time to really get into the whole entire show with the fans. Yeah, I'm here for that. I'm a fan of it. I am totally good with it. They ended up pulling in their stage manager to set up the whole entire setup. They pulled her out on stage, and they brought out a huge birthday cake and balloons, and everyone wished her happy birthday. This is not the first time I've seen this happen. Breaking Benjamin did this about a month and a half ago as well, and I always like to see that happen too, because they're really taking the time out to show their appreciation for the fan, for their crew, and for everybody, and letting the fans, kind of get into it as well. Just great, everything happened. Now, the show keeps going on, and one thing that keeps happening is a lot of times after a song, lights will go dark, there'll be some smoke in the middle, and Maria will walk back through the smoke and then come back out like a minute later with a wardrobe change, and the band will do like kind of instrumentals here and there. The rest of the band did get a chance to really go out and do their kind of own thing. Well, Maria was kind of taking a break, I think, and they actually could play. Holy shit. They did this insane cover of Eye of the Tiger just by themselves, and they kind of went all out. They kind of each had their own little solo minute. That was something that was cool to see because they kind of just were able to go out there and show their stuff, and then they jumped into a cover of Don't Stop Believin'. That was not anything I expected at a In This Moment concert. If you want to see some of it, go to our Instagram page because I have a Instagram video of that as well. I think it was something that was, again, one of the cooler aspects of the show. Towards the end of the show, so I'm getting towards the end of it, I'm actually getting kind of tired because I've been up for a while. I've been kind of moving around. My shoes weren't the best. I was just kind of getting tired, so I was kind of hoping it was going to end sooner rather than later, but that's just me. Just because I was getting old. I'm getting to be old. Fucking A. Well, I think the mosh pit really took it out of me. Plus, then I had to get up at like 6:30 the next morning for Mother's Day. Ugh, man. Well, not Mother's Day, but it's just like getting up that early. The second last song they played, they had everyone kind of go out, and then all of a sudden you hear Maria. What do you want? Is someone thirsty for blood? So now everyone knows blood's coming on. Everyone's aware of it. And they come out, and the whole entire stage is just lit up red, and Maria's just out there in front of the stage, just going nuts, just screaming. Everyone's having a great time, and I thought it was a fitting, end before the encore. Then they go off, the rest of the band goes off, the lights are soft, but then you see this huge, giant, like, triangle-looking platform come up, and I found out it's a freaking staircase. And on the staircase, all it said in the front that you could see was whore. So we all know they're going to end up playing whore as their last song. It's inevitable at this point. Maria calls it out from backstage, and then next thing you notice is she ends up at the top of this staircase and is just now she's going preaching about loving yourself, loving each other, loving yourselves, accepting yourselves for who you are, which I mean, I get it. I'm glad that I understand that, there are times where bands will go, preachy, trying to spread their message. And I'm glad the way that In This Moment did that because they didn't go over above and beyond it. They kind of kept it kept it simple. They kept it to only one aspect of the show, which I do like. Even when I saw Skillet perform, they really kept all their Christian message and kind of John Cooper really preaching, even though he gets really into evangelical youth ministry. He kept it rather short and brief, and I understand the fact that you have your opinions, you have your motives, you have your beliefs, and you're going to end up projecting that onto the fans as well. But if you keep it in a limited capacity at a live show, I think you're doing a fantastic job. So I like what Skillet did. I really like what In This Moment did. And Maria was at the top of the staircase with spotlights kind of just off her, so it created this like shadowy kind of look. And then they played whore. She sang it from the top of the staircase the whole entire time. They let these large balloons go all over the place. Towards the end of the song, they blasted confetti, this purple confetti. I'm still finding some of it in my room right now just because it was still on me. And at the end of it, the rest of the band, everybody came out in front of the stage. They did their bow. And Maria spent about a good 5, 6, 7 minutes shaking fans' hands and just kind of talking with people, which that was one of the cooler aspects of the show that I thought, even though it was at the end of the show, that she and some of the other band members were taking time to, again, thank the fans that were right up front that had been there since the doors opened. I thought that was something that was a very good move and a just fantastic way to end the show. Now, would I go see Sevendust again? Sevendust has played 22 times at the rave. Would I go see Sevendust again in concert? And the answer is yes. Would I go see In This Moment in concert again? And the answer to that question is yes. I would love to see both bands in concert. I believe In This Moment has played at the rave 11 times. And I hope they come back next year. I hope both of them come back next year because I will definitely be going to see those shows as well. So I had a pretty good concert weekend experience. It wasn't as good as the weekend when I saw Motionless In White one night and I saw Rise Against the next night. Two completely different cities. That was one of my favorite weekends of all time. But this was still well worth the money, well worth going to, and I'm excited to see them again as well. Now, to close out this podcast, because I've already talked about new music, I've talked about the concert, and because I don't have a guest, there's one thing that I kind of want to get into just to see kind of what people think about it. Over the past couple of weeks, especially online, especially on my socials, so this is coming more personally. I've seen a lot of people that I have known at least at one point in life, whether it was grade school, middle school, high school, colleges here and there. I've seen a lot of people get engaged, get married. I've seen a lot of weddings, wedding photos. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of them today too. I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. And no, I'm not complaining about the fact that, that's not happening to me. That's not where I'm going with that. Where I'm going with it is there's a lot of music that I listen to that when I think about it, I always think I think about this. Again, I'm a music guy. Weddings I go to, I'm always curious to see what song the couple picks for their first wedding dance or the first dance. I'm actually really curious to see what kind of happens out of that one. I mean, a lot of the times, you're going to get those real sentimental, sweet songs. I've seen some country songs, or I actually heard some country songs for this one. But the one thing I've really never listened to or heard of, not necessarily listened to, but one thing I've never heard of when I'm at weddings or people that have had weddings, when it's like, okay, what song did you first dance to? No one ever has like any kind of wacky rock band track, but there are some that can really put it out there too. And two of the ones I think about, one is Lost in You by 3 Days Grace. I'm not going to go into the whole entire backstory of me and Lost in You because I really don't want to. But there was one I heard recently that I think would really fit in with that as well. And that is Waiting for Comets by Skillet. It has this feel that is just fits perfectly for it. I don't know what better way to describe it. It just fits perfectly as that kind of a song. And especially, getting into wedding season, there's going to be I know a lot of people that are actually getting married this year. I saw an engagement on Facebook today alone from someone that I worked with in college who's a year younger than me, which I still think is pretty cool just because, people are finding their way in life now, especially for, people that I know, that I grew up with, that I went to school with, that I've formed relationships with, whether it be friendships or close friendships or actually a relationship. It's just cool to see what happens to these people just because if you're living your happiness, I mean, go for it. That's what life is all about. Life is about trying to find your true happiness and making sure that you live it to the most of your ability because as Gary Vee says, you got you had a 1 in 400 trillion chance of becoming a human. Why would you waste this opportunity? But then again, I'm thinking about it. I go back to these wedding songs. I'm curious to see have any of you who listen to this, when you got married, if you are married, when you had the first dance with your significant other, did you pick a song by a rock band? And if so, what song did you pick? Again, send it to us on Twitter, Instagram, whatever you want to send it to us on, because I kind of want to figure this out at Rock 2000 to today, of course. And I'm just curious to see what happens. I mean, would I want one if I got married as my first dance with my wife to be to a rock band track? Well, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. That's something I would really enjoy. However, is it necessarily up to me? No. Why? Because it's two people. You gotta put together and you both got to decide on something. None of that, but right now I am as single as a dollar bill, so I've got literally no premonition on that at all. But yeah, it's always curious to see just because of what people come up with. None of that, but also, the father of the bride and the bride dance and the mother of the groom and the groom dance. It's always interesting to see what kind of songs because those are the ones that always get pretty wacky. And yeah, it's just one thing that just popped into my head due to the fact that listening to a lot of Skillet just to try and kind of get a big feel for what I actually want to talk about with them and finding that song. Thinking about other songs that have come out that really kind of can evoke something like that. Like, Hold On to Memories is more about, just remembering times in your past. That's by Disturbed. But that could be useful as well. I'm trying to think of some 30 Seconds to Mars you can do a good amount with those, like Kings and Queens. You could do something with Do or Die even. Let me think of some other ones too, if I can think of them off the top of my head. But I think I've already said a couple of them. I know I said Lost in You by 3 Days Grace. I know I just said Waiting for Comments by Skillet. So there are some options there that really could work. But again, it's always up to the people that are getting married. And I just want to see if there's some rock fans out there that picked a song by a rock band to be their first dance with their significant other, just because I think that's something that'd be really cool. Yeah. So we went through some new music. We went through that In This Moment Sevendust concert I went to, and also just went through a little bit of a thing about wedding songs, just because of how many people I'm seeing progressing in relationships and getting engaged and getting married recently. Just something that popped into my head, and I just kind of wanted to go off on it for a little bit, just because the fact of the matter is it's something that's happened. It's something I'm curious about. But then that's actually going to be it for me, just because I really don't have much other than that, and I don't have a guest. So I want to thank you guys once again for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by My Song of the Day, Rock 2000 to today. It's always a pleasure having you guys here with us and listening, even though I can't really see who you guys are that are listening to this. And I'm always happy to have you on. So if you want to be on the podcast, just shoot us a message anywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. We'll get it set up as well. And yeah, so with it being this past week being Mother's Day weekend, I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, because, well, you deserve it, especially you rock moms out there, because, well, rock music. Woo! Also, on the day of this release, today will be my mom's 65th birthday. Yes, my mom will be 65 today, so I want to wish a big happy birthday to my mom for, well, not only supporting this whole entire project when I was, just kind of starting out, but always giving me the support I needed and always telling me to, look for happiness and to just always be confident in myself and always, support whatever I kind of was trying to do. So I want to wish you a big happy birthday, Mom. I love you. Thank you. Have a great day. And to all of you guys that are out there, you know how I end my podcast, my YouTube videos, my IGTV videos, and my Instagram live streams. You know what it is. See ya!